Hey, fuck Mars. Anytime I can apply makeup in front of a room full of strangers, I am happy. Sorry, I got a Tic Tac stuck halfway down. Globus hystericus. My throat clamped shut. Because I'm scared. Because I'm vulnerable. Because I need you. I act like I don't. Fuck, you have no idea how much I need you. Gotta get off, God. Sorry, channeling Babs Parkins. You know, let's see, what's new in the world this week? Scientists are hoping the Mars probe will help them learn how the planet Mars was formed, if it ever supported any intelligent life, and if it ever did support any intelligent life, would that life have been able to explain this whole Spice Girl thing? I'm no talent spice. I think Warhol missed that one by around 7.5. With the Pathfinder spacecraft landing on Mars last week, NASA scientists, nerds, have been working round the clock. So if you've been waiting to get into that Babylon 5 chat room, now's the time. And the NASA scientists are also giving Mars rocks names based on their appearance. There's Yogi, which looks like a sleeping bear, Flat Top, which looks like a table, and Barnacle Bill, which looks like somebody blowing a sailor. Not that I would know. Hey, we were off last Friday, so I didn't get to weigh in with my take on the Tyson bout. So, did you see the fight? Yes. Wasn't it eerie? You know what it's been like walking around with that gem for 2 weeks and not being able to tell him? Oh, thank God that Leno didn't get to it. Pamplona, Spain held the annual running of the bulls this week, which, interestingly enough, is known in the bull community as the goring of the nutsack celebration. Life is a perspective. And Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Poland were admitted to NATO this week, prompting Polish leaders to demand that Poland be allowed in too. Well, we've been off the Polish people's backs for years. It's time we get back on and ride them hard. Okay, Stash? This week, Kelly Robbins won the LPGA's Jamie Farr Classic at the Highland Meadows Golf Club in Sylvania, Ohio. Jamie Farr was in attendance, and he shook hands, presented the trophy, then filled his pockets with cold cuts from the buffet and bolted. A new study shows sons raised by employed single mothers do almost as well professionally as those raised in two-parent families. But sons raised by single moms are better at making small talk with strange men at the breakfast table. In the comic strip Beetle Bailey, General Half-Track was sent to sensitivity training school this week to learn how to curb his sexist attitudes and stop ogling his secretary, Miss Buxley. Hey, that's great. Now, can somebody please teach Marmaduke how to stop dragging his ass on the carpet? You know, ironically, that was my major in school way back in prehistoric days, dragging my ass on the carpet. And that's when a sheepskin meant a diploma and not the condom the school nurse hands out. Now, I don't want to get off on a rant here, but today's American educational system, quite frankly, ain't doing so goodly. Or goodish. There's nothing there. This country's public schools couldn't be more poorly funded and badly directed if the Secretary of Education were Ed Wood. You know, if you're lucky enough that you can afford a private school, then much of what follows probably won't make sense to you, because unfortunately the majority of the problems are in the public schools, the ones called PS, which is appropriate because they're treated as an afterthought. Our public school system has become a giant, monolithic substitute teacher, an overworked and underpaid civil servant with an impossible load on its back and a huge kick-me sign on its ass. And if our public school system isn't a giant, monolithic substitute teacher, then my name isn't Peter Gozinia, or Dick Hertz, or Phil McCrackup, or Joe Pendulous Balls. Substitute teacher chart, gang. Well, anyway, this decline in our school system is having a discernible effect. I can tell that my audiences aren't quite as educated as they used to be. You know, I like to salt my remarks with references to the best of Victorian literature, but I'm just not getting the response I once did with such pithy observations like, Christ, looking to Clinton for moral leadership is like Samuel Johnson getting style tips from Lord Bulwer Lytton. You know, if our high schools don't start doing their jobs, I'm going to have to resort to something desperate like trying to get laughs just by saying the word motherfucker. Aren't I a naughty little imp? You know, it seems to me that if we don't step up to the blackboard and solve the problems facing this country's educational system, we might as well use the chalk to draw an outline around the future of America's kids. Motherfucking outline of America's kids? You know, maybe I'm not the best guy to be addressing the subject of education. Frankly, when I was in school, I generated more C's than a Spanish couple reaching simultaneous orgasm. But, there you go. Little agua break. But the subject of our public schools hits very close to my heart. For years, I've been earnestly contributing vast amounts to the California school system. That's right, I'm a lottery player. You know, in days gone by, schools used to be orderly, one-room red houses where kids would eagerly learn how to use impressive phrases like in days gone by. But today, schools are replete with acts of violence that make what Tyson did to Holyfield look like Richie Cunningham giving one of the Hooper triplets a hickey. Yes, the gun, the ultimate hall pass. Anybody remember when the only time lead flew in school was when somebody threw a pencil? Violence and intimidation are such accepted parts of school for many kids that when the teacher tells students to raise their hands, just out of force of habit, they raise both of them. But I guess we should just be thankful that teachers dare to tell children anything nowadays. You see, being a teacher is not just limited to the boring educational stuff anymore. No. You get to do so much more than just teach. You're a one-man SWAT team, confiscating an AK-47 here, defusing a lunchbox pipe bomb there, and then you're so burnt out by the time you reach the après school parent-teacher meetings, you explode and tell some parents they can take the college money they've been saving and buy themselves a cigarette boat because the only college their little slappy is going to has the word beauty or clown in front of it. And as far as a retreat from the maelstrom of malevolent and misdirected mayhem, what do the teachers have? Well, they have the teacher's lounge. What a lush oasis that is, huh? A 20 by 20 Serbian bunker strewn with furniture the cast of Trainspotting would pass on. That's filled with so much smoke you swear Marge Schott just elected a new pope. But can you blame teachers? We're sending them into battle unarmed. In many instances, it appears that schools have softened the curriculum so that no one feels like they're left behind. And that depletion of expectation in the end works against the children. Too often now, teachers have to grade on curves that make Anna Nicole Smith look like olive oil. But the curriculum is fixable. Obviously, the biggest part of America's educational problem is that after school, Kids go home to parents who are more involved in their tan than they are in their child's education. Hey folks, it's not a fluff and fold situation where you drop off your kid and zap, you pick him up 12 years later and he can carry on a conversation with Stephen Hawking. If you're not happy with the way your kids are learning, it might be time to do a quick check on the home environment to make sure you're providing them with optimal conditions. For instance, does your teenage daughter put her kids to bed at a reasonable hour so she can study? Hey, here's the bottom line. There are great teachers out there working in a terrible system, dedicating their lives to developing your child's mind. Reward these people and you enrich your children. If we really are concerned about the next generation, then it's time that we drop all of our petty, arbitrary posturing and begin to focus on the matter at hand. It's time to get a little selfless and make the commitment to put in the extra effort to solve this damn... Of course, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I want to know what you think, America. Give me a call at 1-800-522-8673. Tonight's guest has made schools a priority with the highly acclaimed ABC special, I Am Your Child. He's directed such classic films as This Is Spinal Tap, When Harry Met Sally, and A Few Good Men. Rob Reiner, ladies and gentlemen, Rob.
How are you, sir?
Hello.
Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you. How are you?
Scoured the countryside to look to somebody to talk about education, and I found Meathead.
There you go. There you go. The best person, though, for the job.
Yeah.
I'm about to tell you some stuff, Dennis.
Well, I know. You told me we flew back from Aspen one day, and you were telling me about this stuff.
Well,
I thought you'd make a good case.
Yeah, you said something interesting in your opening monologue, which actually, there wasn't actually a lot of humor around this particular item, which I was glad, because you said something about the parents and what parents need to be doing, because the school system is not just made up of teachers, it's made up of children. And the way in which a school system can lift itself up is by the dynamic of the interrelationship between the students and the teachers. So you can't just lay the blame at the feet of the teachers, because they have to teach children. And the way that, children enter school is to me the key to this, to the whole public education system. If you remember about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, President Clinton handed down his Goals 2000. And the first goal was every child must enter school with a readiness to learn. Well, that's a very good goal. I mean, if we can achieve that goal, we won't have to worry about, math scores and reading scores and learning science and history. If you're ready to learn, you will learn, assuming that we have teachers that are capable of teaching, and I believe that we have wonderful teachers. Obviously, they're not paid enough, and they need to be paid a lot more to attract, more teachers, but they're capable to teach, but they don't have the students to teach because they're not ready to learn. Well, how do you have a child enter school to ready to learn? I mean, that's the key.
I'm obsolete.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, you can jump in there anytime you want.
No, I'm kidding you. I was just going to ask you that, though.
No, I mean, well, there you go. Now, you put that goal up there and you just say, okay, every child must enter school with a readiness to learn. What does that mean?
I mean, Clinton wanted to be reelected.
What do you do? I mean, you don't give your children flashcards or try to teach them quantum mechanics before they enter school. But there are things you can do, and what we've discovered.
Okay, tick off 3 of them.
All right, I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, what we've discovered, and the basis of this early childhood development campaign that I've launched called I Am Your Child, which focuses in on the first 3 years of life and how critical those first 3 years are. And we now know, science is now telling us very clearly through all the new research in brain development, that what happens to a child, the things that a child is exposed to, the experiences he has intellectually, physically, and emotionally in the first 3 years is critical in terms of how that child will function later on as an adult. And a child's brain grows to 90% of its adult size in the first 3 years.
And a lot of people stop right there.
Yeah. Yes. And what we know is that the brain, although there is a genetic map made up for each brain, the brain is organizing itself in an alarming rate in the first 3 years. How it's putting together the neurons, the pathways that those neurons are connecting with. And if you talk to your child, read to your child, sing to your child, physically hold your child and nurture him in a warm, loving, responsive way in the first 3 years, you will be building those brain connections, and you will be allowing him to make attachments to other people. How you attach to your child in the first 3 years is going to set in motion how he will attach later on in life. How he will attach to his teachers in school, his schoolmates, the opposite sex later on in life, his co-workers, and so on. So we have to make it, if we really want to change the education system, we must make an investment in the first 3 years of life.
Now look how fired up you are about this. Now what did you feel?
Let him applaud a little bit.
Okay. What did you get when you were a kid in the first 3 years? Did you get enough?
I think I got enough.
And what about in 1978?
No, they slacked off a little bit there. They went down there. No, I think I did get enough.
Why are you so fervent? What makes you burn to do this so much?
Because I've been civic-minded, my whole life. I've been politically active my whole life. And almost 20 years ago, I went through my own problems and my own analysis, and it became very clear to me that what I experienced in my first 2 or 3 years was critical in how I function later on as an adult. And I just figured that this is not unique to me. This is something everybody experiences. Once I had that understanding and that deep awareness, I really didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know if this was something that I just experienced and it wasn't backed up by science. I also didn't have the wherewithal. I didn't have the power base from which to work. Once I became successful and had an opportunity to reach out to the powers that be, I started making calls and talking to people and came across the Carnegie Corporation's Starting Points report, which came out about 3 years ago, which basically said in no uncertain terms everything that I had been thinking for 20 years, and that there was hard scientific evidence to back up everything that I had been thinking. I said, okay, well, here's something, and I discovered that at that point, that scientific evidence had been around for 15 years, and nobody knew about it. I said, well, I'm a communicator. What I do is I put on shows. I got ABC to commit to an hour special. I got Tom Hanks, the president, the First Lady. I got Colin Powell, Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, Roseanne, Rosie O'Donnell. I got all these people to put on a show. And then I created this campaign, which, and I'm going to give you an 8888 number. Can I throw an 888 number out?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob. Fire it out here.
I hope I remember it. Write this down because it's 1-888-447-3400. And if you call that number, you can get, there's parenting brochures, there's community mobilization brochures, what you can be doing in your community. There's also a brand new parenting video that Johnson & Johnson funded, which is sensational. It talks specifically to new parents and what they can do with what they should be doing with their children in the first 3 years. And we also have a CD-ROM that IBM funded that also talks about that, and a website, www.iamyourchild.org. And we basically are working with organizations all over the country. We're working with the National Governors Association to start creating partnerships between state governments and big business to make investments in communities around early childhood development. So that's the thrust right now. And
so the game is afoot right now.
Yes, the game is afoot, and it's important to know that this will improve education. But it's not just about education. This is also about reducing crime, teen pregnancy, drug abuse, child abuse, welfare dependency. Virtually every societal ill can be really, tracked back to the first 3 years of life. So we have to make that investment. Science is now very clearly showing us the way, and if we're not going to take that path, then we're fools. We're fools.
When I was 2.5, my friends and I robbed a bank. I still want to do it. We've got a phone call for you, line 5. Okay. Kim from Schenectady, New York. Kim?
Hi, Dennis. Hi, Rob.
How are you?
If you were in charge of education in this country, what would you address that no one else seems to be able to? Well, such as violence or pregnancy or goals that children should have.
Got another phone call for you, Rob.
If you want, I can answer that question.
Go ahead, Robert.
I can answer that question.
Go ahead. I wasn't in school today. They gave the answer to that. I was skipping.
All roads lead to Rome. And the fact of the matter is, the first call I made when I started being interested in this, I called Tipper Gore because I heard she was interested in men. And don't ask me why. I read that. No, I read
now,
that.
Did you call her Tipper?
Yes, because what else do you call her?
I
Mrs. Gore.
I'd have to
Mrs.
call her
Gore.
Leslie Gore. I could not call her.
It's her vice presidency, and she'll cry if she wants to. That's a really obscure reference there. Leslie Gore, you see, I worked that in. People don't know who Leslie Gore is.
I was on that like Rodman on the offensive glass. Go ahead.
Okay. Tipper Gore, I had read, was interested in mental health issues, so I called her up. Well, it's true. She has been very active in it. I called her up and I met with her, and she showed me that. I met with a number of the members of the Department of Education. She showed me the goals 2000. The first goal of which was every child must enter school with a readiness to learn, and then it had all these other goals. And I said, well, it seems to me if you could reach that first goal, all these other goals would kind of fall in line. So to answer this lady's question, the way to, the thing that you want to do is have children enter school with a readiness to learn. Then you will solve what are seemingly the big problems in the education system right now.
Well, Robbo, usually I try to, your fervency.
Yes.
Kept me from
It bowled you over.
I try to poke fun at things, but I can't poke fun.
You can't do it.
You're on the right.
You can't do
You're
it.
on the right track
Thank
here.
you, sir.
Rob Reiner,
Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen. Stick around, Robbo. Guys, why can't Denny read? All right. Here we see Hillary and Bill moments before referee Mills Lane decided to stop the fight. With a keen understanding of foreign relations, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright tells reporters bald men are better beneath the sheets because they have to be. Here, California Governor Pete Wilson thinks senior citizens. Senior. Hey, that's a Mexican word, isn't it? Okay, we cut Social Security. In order to save time, Congressman Joseph Kennedy now begins each morning by apologizing for anything anyone in his family might do later that day. While attempting to strike a thoughtful pose this week, Strom Thurmond accidentally pushed his own finger through his temple and into his brain case. Mr. Yeltsin, get up off the floor and meet my friend. Hava, Nagila, Hava. Whoa, what the hell am I doing? Mike Tyson visited the Vatican this week. What's that phone number again, Robbo? You know it?
Yes, 1-888-447-3400.
Let's go to the tote board for Chad Everett. The Philip Morris Company has instituted a new policy that will insist that all employees must step outside the building if they want to discuss health issues. Here we see 3 Chinese waiters who refuse to tell patrons what the specials are anymore. And here's the British Army's 15th Extremely Gay Brigade. Though Tibetan monks are serene, wise, and patient people, they will just punch out a hole in a building when they want to leave. If you want to visit actor Larry Linville's Malibu Ranch, first you got to get through these guys. I think Nostradamus foretold that joke was going to eat shit over 1,500 years ago. Von Daniken feels limousine service for Dennis Miller Live is provided by Dave L. Over his years as a supervisor, Kang must have monitored thousands of gay Asian phone sex operators, but as he himself began to get hard listening to the young Lee Dak beguile a client, Kang began to realize that maybe Lee Dak was what commonly referred to in the gay Asian phone sex trade as gifted. Just 2 ears for breakfast and lunch, then a sensible meal at dinner. Scotty knew he was different from the other kids, if for no other reason than their farts didn't lift them up into the air. You know, the Baldwin brothers all have such dark eyes, don't they? Here we see the trainer at SeaWorld's new Jumpin' Jesus show. Now, if the neighbor's dog poops on your lawn, you can send it back express with a new Ronco shit shooter. The Gophers had gotten a little more clever about sneaking up on Old Man Claiborne. Some people will go to great lengths to cover up their bald spot. The looks, the charm, the smarts, Geach had it all. And finally, graduation ceremonies at the Vermont College of Proctology were held this week. Guess what, folks? That's the news. I'm out of here. Good night, ladies.